Hello? Check, 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 check. Hold on, get people, everybody. Facebook did some change in with some stuff, so I'm making sure we're good and live on everything. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good. Check, 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 check. Hello, hello, hello. Got a new follower on Twitch. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. We're getting live. Hold on. I'm just making sure everything's set up. And I'm about to record in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, good morning, good morning. If you have been paying it, if you jumped on while we were live, sorry, I had some technical difficulties this morning. Facebook did some updating. It is 9 a.m. September 27th, 9 a.m. Monday. It is Monday. So of course we were gonna have some issues. It's Monday morning. Hello and welcome in, welcome in. I'm so glad you're here today. It's been a wild weekend when it comes to sports, when it comes to news, when it comes to so much things happening. First off, I just want to give a huge shout out to Justin Tucker, former kicker for an alumni from the University of Texas, who now kicks for the Baltimore Ravens, kicking a game-winning field goal. Not only did he kick a game-winning field goal, he kicked it from 66 yards out, which is a new NFL record for the longest field goal kick in a game. So let's give it up for Justin Tucker. A little mini hand clap for a second. Also, Andy Reid, after the game on Sunday, got taken. The head coach for the Kansas City Chiefs got taken to the hospital, so hope he's okay. I like to give some context to every episode, you know, before we get talking about what we ever talk about for the day. Just so if you listen to the show afterwards, like if you're listening on Spotify or whatever afterwards, you kind of understand what's going on in the days leading up to the podcast, what's going on that day or whatever. So that being said, if you're listening right now, that means you probably missed the show when we were live. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, so make sure you follow on one of those platforms to make sure you catch the show when we are live. Okay, so as you may or may not know, we talk about anything on the show. Okay, so I am lining up a guest, the very first guest on the show. It's not going to be a guest that you're expecting. It's not even a guest that, when I first started the show, would be the first guest that I thought would be for the show. But it is coming. I just got to coordinate with him on. I wanted to do it with 2 other people because I have an idea of what I want to talk about with these 2 individuals, but one is kind of like flaky. So I'm just going to do the one for sure. Here's the thing that I have learned about my life. There's something that my dad instilled in me is don't rely on anybody else. and that sounds kind of shrewd. That sounds kind of rude, but I don't rely on somebody else for my success because people are going to let you down. But if you can always rely on yourself for things, then your life will be like a lot more consistent. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to rely on someone who's flaky. That's what that translates to, right? I'm just going to move on and rely on somebody who is reliable. So if I say I'm going to have a guest, that means I'm going to have that guest unless, something wild happens. You know what I'm trying to say? That applies for anything in my life. Like, I don't rely on somebody. Like, I don't want to rely on someone to get me to work. I don't want to rely on someone to get me to school. I don't want to rely on someone to, that if that person lets me down, it makes or breaks my day. Does that make sense? Sure. When I'll rely on someone or trust someone when it comes to like things like football or sports because it's a team sport. But what I mean is that when I was let's just put this in an example. When I was very young, when I was in about second or third grade, I thought this was normal, but apparently it's not normal. I did not know this wasn't normal until I was much older. In about second or third grade, I was completely self-reliant when it came to getting myself to and from school. You might think, well, you're second or third grade, that's pretty normal. Well, what I mean is my dad would leave for work, so I was usually home by myself. I would have an alarm set, get myself up, get myself ready for school, make myself breakfast, that whole thing, and then walk to school completely on my own without adult interaction. And then same thing for getting home and all that stuff. So my dad just taught me to be independent and like rely on myself, right? And then when I got a little older and I was mowing yards for money, my dad, helped me kind of get that whole business started. And then there was a couple of times when I had a lot of yards to mow and I didn't have a lot of time to do them. So I would try to get a friend to help me. And I learned very quickly, and my dad, kind of fired them for me before I could even get started, because at first I thought it was a good idea. And then I realized very quickly that they didn't have the same work ethic that I did. They didn't have the same standards for mowing yards that I did. And that sounds really simple, but it translates to a lot of things in life. So that was a big roundabout way to say, if I'm gonna rely on myself to be here for the show, and then if I say I'm gonna have a guest, I want someone who's reliable and it's not flaky. So the guest is coming. I have lined him up. He is confirmed going to be a guest on the show. I just got to coordinate when. And I might do a different time of the day because normally I do the show in the morning, but it might be a different time of the day. We'll see. I mentioned about 5 minutes ago that a lot of stuff has been going on in the news since Thursday. I don't think I did an episode on Friday, so since Thursday. Well, let's just start off with this. The election audit in Arizona and Georgia has been going on, and I haven't said anything about it because I don't know what to think about it. But I listened to somebody on the Charlie Kirk show explain a few different episodes, and just to kind of, because what I was seeing in the news wasn't lining up with what I was reading about from other sources. Right? So I was kind of confused and I didn't really understand what was going on. And here's the thing, and here's how it was explained, and it makes more sense. The audit isn't a recount. Okay? A recount is you grab a ballot and you read it and it says, this is a Biden, it goes in the Biden tray. This is a Trump, this goes in the Trump tray. This is a Biden, this goes in the Biden tray. That's a recount. An audit is to make sure, is this ballot legit? Is it voted? Is it a legal ballot? Is it duplicated? Because, we had the mail-in ballots and then they were digitally processed. So there's just been an audit going on to make sure all the ballots casted were legitimate. And I'm going to explain something, because it is not lining up like with what I said that's going on in the media. So the audit, I have confirmed this with multiple sources, has I'm not going to go over all the numbers because the numbers are just overwhelming, about like they have broke this down into what kind of ballots were, you know, duplicated or even counted up to 4 times in certain counties. And this is talking about Arizona and Georgia specifically, is where the biggest audits are going on. But basically, they have found issues between Arizona and Georgia votes about whether votes were duplicated. Some of them were counted up to 4 times. Now, there's also been other issues where they have uncovered video evidence of people ballot harvesting. What that is where you are only allowed to turn in your ballot or your immediate family member's ballot, period. The laws don't allow you to turn in other people's ballots for them. What that means is let's say if I go around and I take 5 people's ballots, like my neighbors or whatever, to turn them in, that's illegal. Okay? They call that ballot harvesting. So there's been I think the number was 243 or 245. I think it's 243 people in a county in Georgia that visited multiple drop boxes for multiple times for the entire multiple drop boxes multiple times a day for the early voting period. And then now there's also video evidence of people, of at least one person. It might be more, but I'm pretty sure it's just one in particular person. She might have done it more than once. I think she's like actually getting in trouble, of showing up to a ballot box with a duffel bag full of ballots and stuffing them in. So there is a lot of, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm not going to get into because I don't quite understand it. It's like how the ballots are digitally scanned and there's like a picture of them, but they're like blurry, and they're trying to get the picture, like them all rescanned because they're like they're like too blurry. And then there was like a canvas in Arizona, I believe, where they went around door to door and said, hey, they went up to somebody's house, right? And like, hey, Mr. Smith, I see that 11 people voted from this household. Do you know these 11 people? And then that person would say, no, I'm the only person that's lived here for 10, 15, 20 years or whatever. So just a lot of shady stuff. And I'm not saying that this is going to change just to be clear, just to be super, super clear, I'm not saying that this is going to change the course of the election. And also, to be clear, I don't want there to be fraud. I want to have confidence in our election, but I don't, because there's evidence of fraud. And then there's the media. I'm going to play a video for you here in a minute of a CNN video that I stumbled across this morning because it was on a headline, so I figured might as well talk about it. Of basically them saying, because look, when the audit you know, sorry, let me re-say that because I'm stuttering. The audit in Arizona is starting to wrap up, and they're saying, well, it turns out that Biden won by more votes. But to be clear, and CNN and these mainstream media sources know this is not a recount, this is an audit. So it shows that there's more Biden votes casted, but that doesn't mean that those votes are legitimate. It also shows that there was, I think, like 17,000 votes or something that were cast, that were counted more than once, most of them twice, but a certain percentage of them were counted up to 4 times. Okay? And now they're trying to literally basically call Republicans stupid, wild and crazy for believing in this. And to be clear, most people don't want there to be election fraud. I was hoping through this audit that there wouldn't be no fraud. That way, in the next election, I would have trust in voting. But that's not the case. So I'm going to play this video, and I want you to just listen to what they have to say. Keep in mind, they know CNN. This is a video from CNN. CNN knows that this is not a recount, and that is just simply making sure the votes are legit. Okay? So I'm gonna make me smaller and make this video bigger. It's a minute and 38 seconds long. But just listen to how they talk about it. Okay, I'm just gonna play it. And it went smaller, and here we go.
But back in January, you wrote for the LA Times about your experience, saying, we can put this up on screen, when I defended the call for Biden in the Arizona election, I became a target of murderous rage from consumers who were furious at not having their views confirmed. Have you gotten any apologies from folks out there? And what is all of that vitriol and say about, you know, what is going on in this country right now? And how does it tie into this crazy Arizona process that we just saw play out? We have people living in a different universe.
My heart breaks I have sincere sympathy for people who were duped, right? There are people who really believe this stuff, right? I don't know what Donald Trump actually believes. I think he knows he lost, but whatever. I have real sympathy for that. There are thousands of people out in the United States who sincerely believe this stuff, and that's a crisis that we have to address in a lot of different ways. But I have only disdain for the people who continue to promulgate this and continue to, you know, what Greg Abbott's doing or what Texans are doing, what other people are doing. They think it's placating Trump, but as the results in Arizona make clear, it doesn't matter what you find. He will claim fraud anyway. Right. He will still say that there was fraud, even if the finding says there wasn't. So just
even in a state like Texas that he won.
Exactly. If
that
you're
doesn't
right,
make any sense.
The point is to undermine voter confidence in the process. Unfortunately, members of both parties make a habit of doing that these days. But we have a direct assault on the legitimacy of our elections. It is a problem, and you cannot placate your way out of this, Republican Party.
Okay, so I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna pause this before the next video starts playing. Okay. You heard the way they were talking about it, that people are living in like make-believe, or that people think that they're making it seem like that people that think that fraud happened are psycho or crazy or living in make-believe. Here's the thing. It's showing that there was some illegitimate ballots casted. And there's been a letter that's been released by some state legislators. I'm not going to read it all. I'm just pulling it up to see when the date was, when it was dated. And then I'm going to count real quick by how many state representatives, senators we have. Senators, representatives, yeah, that signed this. And I'm gonna say the states real quick. So we have this letter that's addressed, I'm gonna skim it, to the citizens of the United States of America. It has come to our attention from an audit of 2.1 million ballots in Arizona, completed by an in-depth canvass of votes in Arizona, as well as through multiple different data reviews by voting independent experts. Our representative republic suffered a corrupt 2020 election. And then it goes into depth about all that, talking about their sworn affidavits, and it's going to talk about decertifying the results in Arizona. Okay, I don't know like how possible that really is. I don't there's a whole process for this, and apparently it's in our constitution that talks about if there was like some sort of voting fraud. I don't know. But there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. It's 51 or 52. I might have lost count in here. 51 or 52 representatives and senators that have signed this. Okay, from Arizona, from Colorado, from Florida, from Iowa, from Michigan, from Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Utah, Washington, Wisconsin. Keep in mind, those are some of those states that Trump won. But even if Trump won a state, oh, by the way, they're recommending that all 50 states have a forensic audit. That's what they're doing with that letter. Even if a state is won by Trump, okay, we have to see which votes were legitimate, because it begs to question how legitimate the election was. It says that Joe Biden was the most voted for president. I think he received 84 million votes, and then Trump received, let's look up popular vote 2020 election. Oops, that's not how you spell any of that. Popular vote 2020 election. I just want to see if it pops up. If it doesn't, I just want to see total votes. Total votes. So Biden had 81 million votes. I thought it was 84. I was wrong. And then 74 million for Trump, and then about 3 million for other. Okay, so add that together. We have, I'm going to do this on a calculator so I don't mess it up. We have 81 plus 70, 81 plus 74 plus 3, 158 million votes casted in the 2020 election. That is significantly more than any other election in history, percentage-wise, of America. That's over 50% of America, or it's about 50% of America voted, because I think we have 320 or 330 million Americans. Crazy. I just wanted to address this because I want people to be aware of how the media is lying and deceiving people. They're overtly deceiving information on their platforms. And I don't think that that's a smart or good thing to do. And I think people are catching on. I don't think that this it seems fragile. It seems like the media is getting more and more egregious of how they're lying, of how they're deceiving, and I think people are starting to catch on from both sides. I don't know, I don't know how much longer this kind of stuff will happen, especially if, can you just imagine that what will happen if they do decertify the votes in Arizona or Georgia? We were just talking about Arizona. We didn't even get to Georgia yet. Georgia has some wild things happening. Can you imagine what will happen? And it'll somehow be, I posted something on Facebook during the election. I said, I can't wait for when all the voting fraud gets uncovered, and I can't wait for the Democrats to explain how it's still Trump's fault. I mean, it's true. Like, it's somehow going to be Trump's fault. Trump is just such a polarizing person. And listen, I'm not the biggest pro-Trump person. I'm really not. But I am pro-integrity election. I am pro keeping the power to the actual American people. We are letting our government get too powerful, and I don't like where it's going. And we literally have to stop it. We can't let our government get too powerful. We can't put too much trust in our government, because they will, our government's not to be trusted. The only goal of the government should be to protect us from the government. That should really be, we have to realize that the government can easily become not pro-citizen very quickly, and there's evidence of that all over the world. It is Monday. I know you guys are gonna have a good week. Let's be more positive this week. I know there's like a little bit of a downer to talk about this week, but I know that we're gonna have a good week. I just really wanted to talk about this because I think that people should be aware of the mockery that's happening right now. Okay. If you have anything you want to talk about, the whole point of the live show is for you to jump in the chat and say what you want to say. You can literally even call me out. You can call me out my BS live during the show. So if you really want to do that, follow on one of the platforms so you can see when we go live. And yeah, come call me out my BS if you like to. All right, guys, I really appreciate you guys for stopping in. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. Make sure you comment, say hello. Make sure you like I said multiple times already, follow on one of the platforms. Listen, you can support the show if you want monetarily. I'm not asking you to do this. I'm to letting you know that if you would like to, you can. You can go to anchor.com. You find the podcast on Anchor. There's links to the Anchor everywhere. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the comments on the Facebook right here. So if you can go to the Facebook and see the comment for this video, I'm gonna go ahead and put the Anchor in the comments. Boom, there it is. And then I'm gonna pin it. So you can go to Anchor and you can listen to find the podcasts on there, but you can also choose to support. It all goes to the improvement of the podcast or the stream or whatever. You can do like 99 cents a month or $5 a month or something. But yeah, well, I appreciate the supports that we've already gotten, and I hope to see you guys on the next episode. The best way you can support, though, by the way, the best way you can support is just by helping me boost the algorithm by liking, following, sharing, all that, just interacting with the video. All right, guys, really appreciate it. All right, guys, until the next